Welcome to Viral Drop Recaps. In the beginning of this film, we are shown that people needed to administer the entire world with their powers. That is the reason war occurred between them. During the conflicts, some got inside obscurity, and some accomplished edification. Simply based on this conflict, the fate of people were not entirely set in stone. What's more, the opportunity has arrived. Then, at that point, the story shifts forward. What's more, we get to see a 9-story fox, named Daji, who was appreciating with ruler Zhao. However, at that point there, a trooper of Lord Zhao came. So Daji killed and ate that officer. Then we get to see a few fighters, who were coming, to protect their undetectable clan from Zhou's standard. Right when they crossed the lines of Zhao, Li detected something awful, so their skipper prompted Li, not to utilize his powers. What's more, on the off chance that Li utilized his powers, Daji would get to be aware of them. They all were examining about this. However, at that point their lord, Zhang came, who told about ruler Zhao that, when he was youthful, he guaranteed the dark mythical beast. This commitment would made him the ruler of the entire world. So Zhao offered his body to the dark winged serpent, with the goal that the dark mythical beast could get inside him. Furthermore, Zhao could run the entire world. Ace Zhang said them that, when the 3 stars would consolidate, then the dark winged serpent would come to Earth. Also, the obscurity would lead the world for the following 18,000 years. Then the expert Zhang said that, Daji is certainly not a major danger, as the dark mythical serpent is. So the skipper asked him, what is going on of the terrific vendor? That's what then the expert said, fantastic vendor is the one in particular who know how to kill the dark winged serpent. What's more, in the event that they didn't save the amazing seller, then, at that point, the entire world would get in murkiness. Subsequent to saying this, Ace Zhang left. There in the Zhou's realm, planning was happening for an occasion. Since today, he was going to kill the excellent vendor. What's more, there the binds got inside the royal residence of Zhao. Then, at that point, Li heard the children of the imperceptible clan. So he attempted to protect them. On his way, a few troopers likewise attempted to stop him. Be that as it may, Li figured out how to kill them all. Then Li accompanied his partners, to protect the children of the imperceptible clan. Furthermore, utilized his wizardry and saved them. At the point when he utilized his wizardry, the pastor got to be aware of this. What's more, there, Zhao requested that terrific seller see his future. Also, when amazing vendor saw his future, then, at that point, he blew up. Since he saw that, he planned to pass on soon. So he requested that his warriors tear of both the eyes of fabulous seller. Here Li with his colleagues, was looking for great vendor. Then a few troopers went after them. So the children of the undetectable clan, transported them. What's more, they got in a protected spot. Also, there, when the warriors were going to tear of his eyes, then Ace Zhang showed up there. What's more, freeze the time with his powers. There, the pastor of Zhao tracked down them. Be that as it may, Li and his sibling figured out how to save the children of the imperceptible clan. Furthermore, the two of them chose to remain there. Also, when the pastor general followed them, then Li tumbled off a wall before him, and impeded his direction. Then they figured out how to get away. Their Daji got in his actual structure. What's more, went after on Ace Zhang. In any case, Ace Zhang fearlessly battled Daji. Yet, he got caught in her otherworldly snare. Daji reviled him and presently he wouldn't mature. And afterward attempted to kill the expert. So the fantastic seller subsequent to seeing Zhang passing on attempted to give one of his eyes to him. However, Daji saw him doing this. Also, grabbed his attention, utilizing his tail. However, at that point, Li and his colleagues showed up there. Also, he figured out how to save the expert Zhang. In the wake of seeing them in a difficult situation, great seller requested that they leave. So Ace Zhang called his bird. Then Zhang and Li were going to leave. Be that as it may, before they could leave, great vendor allowed him his subsequent eye. Also, subsequent to taking it, they generally left. Then Daji killed the amazing seller. Li and his lord got inside his state sizzy. The expert showed the eye of excellent seller to the general. His eye was not a normal eye. His eyes could allow them to see the future and the past. Furthermore, when Ace Zhang utilized his sorcery to get the eye, his age began to fall. Also, in the wake of seeing this, the general was stunned. Then Ace Zhang let him know that, whenever he utilizes his powers, he would get more youthful. Then, At that point, Ace Zhang showed the blade of light to the general and said, "This is the main weapon equipped for killing the dark-winged serpent. However, it isn't not difficult to control it. What's more, just a commendable hero had some control over it." That's what the general then said. He was unable to endanger his kin, only for this blade of light. Then the expert said him that, Daji likewise has one eye of the great seller. So she might realize a mysterious that we may not be aware. So they are left without any decisions. Their Daji requested her pastor to kill everybody who attempt to get to the sword of light. Then, at that point, Li should have been visible difficult again to fly. In reality, he was from the Wings clan. But since of a mishap, he was always been unable to fly. So he generally continued on. In any case, he generally fizzled. Furthermore, this time additionally, he fizzled. His sibling Jackie prompted him not to surrender. Furthermore, at some point, he would have the option to fly. Then, at that point, we get to see that Ace Zhang gave Li the guide of the blade of light. He likewise gave him a few companions and a few vital things for his excursion. In the wake of taking these things, Li went for the pursuit of the sword of light. Here the general of Daji made a clone. Furthermore, asked it to see as Li. In reality that clone was a young lady. Also, he has every one of the controls of her. What's more, the young lady did anything that he said. Furthermore, here Li meandered for a really long time, looking for the blade of light. Be that as it may, he didn't get anything. Then a plant emerged, which was a gift from his lord. Furthermore, it directed him for looking through the sword of light. Li then gotten some information about his companion. That's what then the plant answered, he will come soon. Then, at that point, he heard somebody crying. Furthermore, he was, in all honesty, his companion Naya. Naya upset Li a great deal. That is the reason, the two of them began battling. Furthermore, when the two of them were battling, a beast showed up there. Who then went after the two of them. The beast was going to eat Naya. In any case, Li killed it, with his enchantment. Li then gave Naya a sack, which his lord Zhang gave him. Furthermore, when he opened the pack, a child-winged serpent sovereign emerged. Naya and that child had a contention. And afterward, Naya returned to his unique structure. And, afterward he got oblivious. Furthermore, when he returned to detects, he attempted to find his wheel's fire. Be that as it may, he thought of himself as caught. So Li liberated him. Furthermore, requested his assistance in looking through the sword of light. Yet, Naya denied and chose to leave. Yet, Li then, at that point, said that he would get him his wheel's fire. Also, in the wake of paying attention to this, he consented to help. Also, the two of them proceeded in their excursion. Li got in a special spot, in the wake of following the guide of his lord, where they got to see an old holy person. What's more, he had some control over the sands of that spot. What's more, he removed from mysterious thing out of that sand. In the wake of seeing it, Naya attempted to get it. Yet, the holy person went after him, to rebuff him. He additionally went after Li. What's more, during this battle, all the three moved to a better place. Also, there the holy person returned to his unique structure, youthful Zhang. What's more, due to the scourge of Daisy, turned into a holy person. Furthermore, when youthful Zhang returned to his unique structure, then Li gave him a pack, which his lord gave him. The pack had his canine, Sky Howler. What's more, in the wake of taking his canine, he left to track down his brilliant covering. Then he again took out his guide, where he saw the port of boat. So the two of them were on their way there. On the way, Li saw a young lady from a clan. Also, her name was Sky Blue. Also, Li got drawn to her. Also, when Li got close to her, she caught every one of his recollections. She was, in all honesty, that human clone, which was made by the general of Daji. By the assistance of Sky Blue, the general got to have a deep understanding of Li. Li then, at that point, went to woman Tai, who had the port of boat. At the point when Li moved toward her, he then became mixed up in her fantasies. In any case, that plant figured out how to save him. Furthermore, when he saw that the woman Tai was in profound rest, the plant needed to make use and attempted to take the port of boat. However, at that point, woman Tai awakens. And afterward woman Tai and Li had a battle. Then there came the young lady. Also, three of them took off with the port of boat. Also, utilized it to go through the ocean courses. During the excursion, the young lady got some information about the Sword of Light. So they thought her. What's more, Naya attempted to kill her. Be that as it may, the child mythical serpent splashed gas all over. Furthermore, as a result of it, Naya got back his child structure and got oblivious. Then Daji's general eradicated every one of the recollections of Blue Sky. Due to which, she got oblivious. Li then attempted to save her, with his mystical powers. He was really drawn in by her. Port of Boat showed up at the Morlov castle. As the child mythical serpent controlled the boat. Also, when his father came to realize that he was getting back, he sent a beast octopus to bring his child back. Child winged serpent began singing as he had returned to his home. Furthermore, this took Naya back to detects. Then everybody showed up at the castle of Morlov. As the father of that winged serpent had the wheels of fire of Naya. So he spread mayhem there. Furthermore, returned the child mythical serpent for his wheels of fire. Also, right when he got back his wheels of fire, he returned to his unique structure. Also, left in the wake of taking it. Here Li and Sky Blue showed up at a spot where everything was obliterated. Li could recall this spot. There he saw a few indications of the Wing clan and the sun-powered bird. Li then totally perceived that spot is, in all honesty, his old neighborhood drifting city. Li was blissful in the wake of seeing his home. He then said to Sky Blue that, when he was of 6 somebody went after this drifting city. Also, after that mishap, despite the fact that he was of the Wing clan, yet couldn't fly. Sky Blue then said, she trust him that, one day he would have the option to fly. Li then got to be aware of the Blade of Light. He then utilized his mystical powers to fix the sunlight-based bird. Right when he fixed the sun-based bird, he got to see the Blade of Light. Furthermore, in the wake of seeing it, the two of them were truly blissful. Then Daji's general showed up there with his AR. Subscribe to our channel to see more of our videos.